Put the items back and step outside.
Why? I'm shopping. I haven't finished yet.
Someone reported that you are acting suspicious. You've been in here too long.
I've been here 15 minutes. That's suspicious?
Are you leaving or do I need to remove you?
I'm a customer. I'm buying groceries. This is ridiculous.
Don't make this difficult. Outside.
The security cameras at Save Mart captured everything. Every word, every movement. And Officer Ryan Kellerman had absolutely no idea that the man he was about to arrest had spent 25 years leading soldiers in combat, briefing generals on military strategy, and earning medals for valor in the most dangerous war zones on the planet. The man standing in aisle 7 wasn't nervous. He wasn't apologizing. He wasn't trying to explain himself. He was Colonel James Mitchell, and he had commanded 120 soldiers through Helmand Province. He had coordinated defense operations that saved 17 lives. He had been vetted by the Department of Defense at levels most civilians don't even know exist. And now he was about to become the plaintiff in a lawsuit that would cost the city $780,000 and end a cop's career over a basket of groceries. Before we continue, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. And if you believe people deserve to shop without being harassed, hit that subscribe button. 3 deployments: Iraq, Afghanistan. Led 120 soldiers through some of the most dangerous territory in Helmand Province. Got the Bronze Star after his unit came under attack, and he coordinated a defense that saved 17 lives. His fitness reports are perfect. His record is spotless. He's got a master's degree in strategic studies from the Army War College, taught tactics at West Point for 2 years, served on a joint task force with the Department of Defense. Right now, he's being considered for promotion to Brigadier General, one of the few black general officers in the Army. But tonight, he's not Colonel Mitchell. He's just a man trying to buy groceries on his way home from base. He changed out of his uniform into civilian clothes. Jeans, polo shirt, sneakers, nothing fancy, nothing that should draw attention. He stopped at Save Mart because it's on the way home and his wife texted him a shopping list. She's a high school principal. Their daughter Maya is at Georgetown studying international relations. Their son Eric is finishing junior year, hoping to get into Annapolis. James is a father, a husband, a decorated soldier who spent 25 years defending the Constitution. And right now, in aisle 7, he's being treated like a criminal for shopping while black. Officer Ryan Kellerman is 38 years old and doesn't think he's racist. That's the thing about Ryan. He'd be offended if you called him that. He has black friends. He works with black officers. He voted for Obama. In his mind, he's just doing his job, being thorough, keeping the community safe. But here's the truth that Ryan can't see about himself. When he walks into a room, his eyes find the black faces and stick there. When he sees a black man jogging, he wonders where he's going. When he sees a black man in a nice car, he wonders if it's stolen. When he sees a black man shopping carefully, he wonders what he's stealing. He's been with the Clarksville Police Department for 15 years, grew up here, played football in high school, did 2 years of community college before the academy. His record is unremarkable. A few commendations. 1 excessive force complaint ruled unfounded. 1 discourteous behavior complaint that got him a written warning. His supervisors think he's fine. Not great, not terrible. Just a guy doing a job. But if anyone bothered to look at the numbers, they'd see something interesting. Over the past 3 years, Ryan has made 47 stops for suspicious activity. 34 of those stops involved black people. The city is only 18% black. That's not randomness, that's a pattern, but nobody's connected those dots yet. 20 minutes ago, dispatch got a call from Save Mart. The caller was Brad Simmons, a 19-year-old cashier working the evening shift. Brad said there was a suspicious black male acting strange in the store. When the dispatcher asked what made him suspicious, Brad said the man was taking too long and looking around a lot and kept checking his phone. That's it. That's the complaint. A man shopping slowly and using his phone. Ryan took the call. He arrives at Save Mart expecting to find someone shoplifting or casing the place for a robbery. What he finds is a middle-aged man in business, casual clothes, reading nutrition labels and texting his wife about dinner. But Ryan's already decided this is suspicious. The call said suspicious, and Ryan's instincts say something's off. And once Ryan makes up his mind, facts don't change it. James is standing in the pasta aisle trying to decide between regular and whole wheat spaghetti when he notices the cop walking toward him. Not the casual walk of someone on routine patrol. The deliberate stride of someone who's identified a target. James's military training kicks in automatically. Assess the situation, identify threats, prepare responses. He doesn't panic. He's dealt with hostile forces in combat zones. A small town cop with an attitude isn't going to rattle him. Ryan approaches. His first words are a command. Put the items back and step outside. James looks at him with genuine confusion. He's shopping. He hasn't done anything wrong. He hasn't even been in the store that long. What's the problem? Ryan says someone reported suspicious activity. Says James has been in here too long. James almost laughs. 15 minutes is too long for grocery shopping? He points out how absurd that sounds. Ryan's response reveals everything. He says James keeps looking around, checking his phone, as if those are criminal activities. As if a person in a store might naturally look at products and respond to text messages. James says clearly and calmly that he's a customer buying groceries and this is ridiculous. That's when Ryan makes his first major mistake. He tells James not to make this difficult, orders him outside. Now, James stands his ground, doesn't move, doesn't put down his basket, just looks at Ryan with the calm, steady gaze of someone who's faced actual danger and isn't impressed by manufactured authority. He says, "Officer, I'm not going anywhere until you tell me what law you think I'm breaking." Ryan's jaw tightens. People don't talk to him like that. People do what he tells them to do. He says, "Sir, you need to comply with my lawful order." James, his voice still calm but with an edge of steel that comes from years of command, responds. First, define lawful. Second, I'm a customer in a store. What specific ordinance or statute am I violating by shopping? Other customers start noticing. An elderly woman with a cart stops at the end of the aisle. A young couple watches from the deli counter. A teenager stocking shelves pulls out his phone and starts recording. Ryan looks around, aware of the attention. He lowers his voice slightly. "Sir, we can do this easy or hard. Your choice." James doesn't lower his voice. He wants everyone to hear. "Officer, there is no easy or hard. There's legal and illegal. Right now, you're detaining a customer who has broken no laws. That's illegal. So the question is whether you're going to realize that and walk away or whether you're going to compound your mistake." Quick question for everyone watching. Have you ever been confronted by police for doing absolutely nothing wrong? Type yes or no in the comments below. Ryan feels his authority slipping. This isn't how these encounters go. People are supposed to be nervous, compliant, apologetic. This man is none of those things. He decides to escalate. He asks James for identification. James asks the question every officer dreads. Am I being detained or am I free to go? Because if you're not detained, you can leave. If you are detained, the officer needs reasonable suspicion. There's no middle ground. The question forces clarity. Ryan says, "You're being temporarily questioned as part of an investigation." James recognizes the dodge immediately. "Investigation of what crime? Be specific. What do you suspect me of doing?" Ryan falls back on the complaint. "Someone reported suspicious behavior." James asks what behavior specifically. What actions has he taken that are suspicious? Ryan lists them: being in the store a long time, looking around, checking his phone. James, his voice dripping with controlled contempt, responds, "So I'm suspicious for shopping slowly, looking at products, and texting my wife about dinner. Do you hear yourself?" Ryan's hand moves toward his belt, not quite to his weapon, but in that direction. A gesture meant to remind James who has power here. James notices. Everyone watching notices. The teenager recording zooms in on Ryan's hand. James says very clearly, "Officer, I see your hand moving toward your weapon. I am not threatening you. I am standing still, holding a basket of groceries. I am not armed. I am not aggressive. I am simply refusing to be intimidated by your illegal detention." Ryan's face flushes red. He says, "Sir, I'm going to ask you one more time to put down the basket and come with me outside." James says, "And I'm going to tell you one more time. No, I am a customer. I have broken no laws. You have no legal authority to detain me. If you touch me or arrest me, you will be committing battery and false arrest." The store manager has been watching from the registers. His name is Phil Carson. He's nervous. He can see this going bad. He walks over, trying to defuse things. "Officers, is there a problem? This gentleman is a regular customer. He's here a couple times a month." Ryan turns to Phil. "You called in a complaint about suspicious activity." Phil looks confused. "No, I didn't. Who called?" Ryan hesitates. He says one of Phil's employees called. Phil calls over to the registers. "Who called the police?" Brad, the teenage cashier, raises his hand reluctantly. "I did. He was acting weird." Phil asks what specifically was weird. Brad can't answer. Just keeps saying he seemed suspicious. Can't point to any actual behavior. Just a feeling. Just an assumption based on absolutely nothing except skin color. Phil reads the room, reads the dozen phones now recording. He says, "Officer, I don't see any problem here. This customer hasn't done anything wrong. Maybe there was a misunderstanding." Ryan is trapped. The manager is contradicting the complaint. The customer is articulate and refusing to be intimidated. There are cameras everywhere. Every word is being recorded. He should walk away, should apologize for the confusion, and leave. But Ryan's ego won't let him. He's committed to this course of action. Backing down feels like losing. He reaches for James's arm. James pulls his arm back. Not violently, not aggressively, just moving out of reach. He says loudly, "Do not touch me. I do not consent to any physical contact." Ryan grabs James's wrist anyway. That's the moment. That's when everything changes. That's when Ryan crosses from bad policing into actionable civil rights violation. James doesn't resist, doesn't pull away, doesn't fight, but he also doesn't make it easy. He goes completely still, making Ryan do all the work. And James keeps talking. For the recording, for the witnesses, for the lawsuit that's definitely coming. "I am not resisting. I am being forcibly detained by this officer for shopping. I have committed no crime. I have been given no lawful reason for this detention. I am a colonel in the United States Army. My name is James Mitchell. My service number is..." Ryan cuts him off. "I don't care about your rank. You're being detained for suspicious activity." James continues, voice steady and clear. "I am being racially profiled. This officer has singled me out because I am black. There are 20 other customers in this store. None of them have been questioned. The only difference between me and them is my race." Ryan pulls out his handcuffs. Several customers gasp. The teenager recording moves closer. Phil, the manager, says, "Officer, this really isn't necessary. He's just shopping." Ryan tells Phil to step back or he'll be charged with interfering with police. James places his shopping basket on the floor carefully, doesn't want anything that could be called resistance. He puts his hands behind his back and says, "I am complying under protest. This is an unlawful arrest. You have no probable cause. This detention violates my Fourth Amendment rights." The cuffs go on, click, click. The sound echoes through the store. A woman near the produce section starts crying. An older black man watching from the pharmacy shakes his head. The weariness on his face says he's seen this too many times before. Ryan starts walking James toward the exit. James doesn't shuffle, doesn't stumble, walks with his back straight, head up, the way he walked through hostile villages in Afghanistan, with dignity. As they pass the registers, James says to Phil and the gathering crowd, "My name is Colonel James Mitchell. I'm stationed at Fort Harrison. I have done nothing wrong. This is false arrest. Please post the videos online. Contact the ACLU. Contact the Army. Make sure this is documented." Ryan tells him to be quiet. James says, "I have a First Amendment right to speak. You cannot compel my silence." They exit the store. The parking lot is busy with evening shoppers. People stop to stare at the officer, walking a handcuffed black man to a patrol car. Some look away uncomfortably. Others pull out phones. More witnesses. More cameras. More evidence. Ryan opens the back door of his patrol car. Before putting James inside, he does what officers are trained to do. He asks if James has anything in his pockets that could hurt him. James says, "My wallet, my phone, my car keys, and my military ID, showing I'm a full colonel in the United States Army, which you would have discovered if you'd asked for identification instead of immediately assuming I was a criminal." Ryan searches James's pockets, pulls out the items one by one. The wallet, the phone, the keys, and the military ID. Ryan stares at it. The ID has James's photo, his rank, his service number, the holographic security features, the official seals. This isn't some fake ID. This is the real thing. Ryan's face goes pale. For the first time since this started, understanding seems to dawn. Maybe, just maybe, he's made a terrible mistake. But it's too late. He's already arrested the man, already created the incident, already recorded all of it on his body camera. Backing down now would look even worse than pushing forward. He puts James in the back seat and closes the door. James sits in silence, looking straight ahead, already planning the phone calls he'll make as soon as he's released. To his wife, to the JAG office, to the NAACP, to every person who needs to know what just happened. The drive to the police station takes 8 minutes. Ryan says nothing. James says nothing. The only sound is the radio crackling with dispatch traffic, other officers handling other calls. The world keeps turning like nothing happened. They arrive at the station. Ryan walks James inside like he just caught a major criminal. His posture is proud, confident. He genuinely believes he did good police work, found a suspicious person, made an arrest, just another day. The desk sergeant is a woman named Lieutenant Susan Torres, 22 years with the department. She's seen everything. She looks up and sees a man in handcuffs wearing khakis and a button down with a faculty ID. Wait, no, a military ID hanging around his neck. She asks Ryan what the charge is. Ryan says theft of property and obstruction. Susan asks for details. Ryan explains the laptop theft report, how the subject matched the description, refused to cooperate. Susan, who has seen enough bad arrests to recognize one immediately, asks if Ryan recovered the stolen laptop. Ryan says the suspect wouldn't let him examine it. Susan asks if Ryan ran a serial number check. Ryan says the suspect wouldn't consent. Susan looks at Ryan for a long moment, then looks at James, asks his name. James gives his full name and title, Dr. James Mitchell. No, wait, Colonel James Mitchell, United States Army, Fort Harrison. Susan closes her eyes briefly, the way people do when they realize something very bad is happening. She asks Ryan to step into the hallway with her. Now, they leave James standing at the desk. Another officer, young and nervous, stands nearby, unsure what to do, unsure what's happening. James can hear the conversation in the hallway. Susan's voice is controlled but firm. She's asking Ryan if he checked any databases before the arrest, if he called the coffee shop to get more details, if he had any evidence beyond a vague description that matched thousands of people. Ryan's voice is defensive, says the guy was being difficult, refused to show ID, got aggressive when questioned. Susan's response is sharp. Refusing to show ID without reasonable suspicion isn't illegal. Asserting your rights isn't aggression. You just arrested a colonel who's going to sue the department and probably win. They come back to the desk. Susan looks at James, says she's very sorry for the inconvenience, tells the other officer to remove the handcuffs. The metal comes off. James rubs his wrists where the cuffs pressed into skin. Not tight enough to leave marks, but they've been on for over 20 minutes. 20 minutes too long. Susan says James is free to go, no charges will be filed. James asks for a copy of the arrest report and the booking documentation. Susan says there won't be a formal arrest report since he's being released without charges. James, in the patient voice of someone explaining things to a slow student, says he was handcuffed, transported, and brought to the station. That constitutes an arrest regardless of whether charges are ultimately filed. Under Illinois law and department policy, documentation is required. Susan knows he's right. She prints the incident report and the preliminary booking form, hands them to James along with a business card for the department's internal affairs division. James thanks her for her professionalism. He specifically notes that Susan handled the situation appropriately once she became aware of it. Then he turns to Ryan. Officer Kellerman, I'll be filing a formal complaint with Internal Affairs. I'll also be filing a federal civil rights lawsuit under 42 U.S.C. section 1983. You violated my First, Fourth, and 14th Amendment rights in a public space with multiple witnesses and video documentation. I suggest you speak with a lawyer. Ryan, still somehow believing he did nothing wrong, says James is free to file whatever he wants. James replies, I will, and I'll win, because everything I just told you is legally accurate and you have no defense. He walks out of the station at 7:38 p.m., been in custody for 55 minutes. He stands on the sidewalk for a moment, taking a breath, then pulls out his phone. First call his wife, let her know he's okay, explain why dinner will be late, why he never made it home with the groceries, why he's standing outside a police station instead of their kitchen. Second call, the staff judge advocate at Fort Harrison, the JAG office, the Army's lawyers who handle exactly these kinds of situations. Third call, the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, because this isn't just about him. It's about everyone else this cop has stopped, everyone else this will happen to if nothing changes. By 8 p.m., the videos from the grocery store are already online. 5 different angles, crystal clear footage, everything documented. By 9 p.m., they have over 100,000 views. By midnight, news outlets pick up the story. By morning, this is national news. Army colonel arrested for shopping while black. The headline writes itself. The Clarksville Police Department's Internal Affairs Division opens an investigation immediately. They don't have a choice. The videos are everywhere. Local news, national news, social media, military news outlets. A decorated Army colonel arrested for shopping while black. The whole thing captured from multiple angles. The case goes to Captain Marcus Rainey, 28 years on the force, runs internal affairs with a reputation for being thorough and fair. He's investigated over 400 officer conduct complaints. He knows how to separate legitimate police work from misconduct. He pulls the security footage from Save Mart, collects the videos from the 5 customers who recorded everything, reviews Ryan's body camera footage, interviews 17 witnesses who were in the store that evening. Every piece of evidence tells the same story. Black man shopping normally. Employee called police based on nothing but racial anxiety. Officer arrived, made assumptions based on race, escalated a non-situation into an unlawful arrest. 6 days after the incident, Marcus interviews Ryan. The interview is recorded per department policy. Ryan sits across the table, still convinced he did the right thing. Marcus asks him to explain his reasoning for the arrest. Ryan says he responded to a call about suspicious activity, encountered an uncooperative subject who refused lawful orders, made an arrest for obstruction. Marcus asks what made the subject's behavior suspicious. Ryan lists the same things: being in the store a long time, looking around, checking his phone. Marcus asks if those behaviors are actually illegal. Ryan says they indicated possible shoplifting or casing for robbery. Marcus asks if Ryan observed any actual shoplifting. No. Did Ryan see the subject concealing merchandise? No. Did the subject set off any alarms? No. Did any employees witness theft? No. Was the subject in a restricted area? No. So what made this encounter a lawful detention? Ryan says the subject refused to comply with his order to step outside. Marcus asks what gave Ryan the authority to order a customer to leave a store where he was lawfully shopping. Ryan says he was investigating a complaint. Marcus points out that investigating a complaint doesn't give an officer unlimited authority. You need reasonable suspicion of criminal activity to detain someone. Walking slowly in a store and looking at products isn't reasonable suspicion. Ryan says the subject was being defensive and uncooperative. Marcus, his voice very calm but very firm, says, "Officer, asserting your constitutional rights is not being uncooperative. Refusing to comply with an unlawful order is not obstruction. You arrested a man for shopping. Do you understand how serious this is?" Ryan starts to defend himself, but Marcus cuts him off. Says Internal Affairs reviewed Ryan's history. Over the past 3 years, Ryan made 47 stops for suspicious activity. Of those 47 stops, 34 involved black individuals. The city is only 18% black. Only 8 of those 47 stops resulted in actual charges. 3 of those charges were later dismissed. Ryan's been stopping people based on race, not behavior. He's been violating civil rights repeatedly, and no one caught it because the department wasn't looking for patterns. Each individual incident looked marginal, but put them together, the pattern screams bias. The investigation takes 9 weeks. The conclusion is damning. Ryan made an unlawful detention without reasonable suspicion, escalated a non-confrontational situation through aggression, arrested a citizen without probable cause, failed to de-escalate when given multiple opportunities, demonstrated a pattern of racial bias in enforcement, violated department policy on constitutional policing. The report recommends termination. Ryan gets called into a meeting. The chief of police, the department's legal counsel, a representative from the city attorney's office. They lay out the findings, show him the evidence, explain the legal liability he's created. The city's attorneys have already been contacted by lawyers representing Colonel Mitchell. They're preparing a federal civil rights lawsuit. They have the videos, the witness statements, Ryan's history of biased stops. They have an airtight case. The chief gives Ryan the same choice many officers get in these situations: resign now with your pension, or face termination proceedings that will be public and will destroy any chance of working in law enforcement again. Ryan chooses to resign. His resignation letter goes in 11 weeks after the grocery store incident. He claims he's leaving to pursue other opportunities. Everyone knows the truth. Ryan never works as a police officer again. Eventually finds work doing private security at a warehouse facility. Makes about half what he made as a cop. Tells people he was forced out by political correctness, that he was just doing his job. Never admits he was wrong. Colonel Mitchell hires one of the best civil rights attorneys in the state. Her name is Angela Chin. She's won over $15 million in settlements and verdicts against police departments for constitutional violations. Angela files the federal lawsuit 3 months after the arrest. The complaint is 41 pages long and devastating. It includes frame-by-frame analysis of the video evidence, expert testimony on Fourth Amendment law, statistical analysis of Ryan's stop pattern showing clear racial bias, psychological assessment of the harm caused, documentation of James's military service and character, similar cases establishing precedent for large damages. The city attorney reviews the complaint and advises immediate settlement. This isn't going to trial. No jury is going to watch those videos and side with the police. A decorated colonel arrested for shopping in front of dozens of witnesses? With everything on camera, this is a plaintiff's lawyer's dream case. They offer $200,000, Angela counters with $1.2 million, they negotiate for 6 weeks, the final settlement is $780,000. But money is only part of what James wants. The settlement also requires termination of Officer Kellerman, which already happened, comprehensive training on racial bias for all officers, implementation of an early warning system to identify officers with patterns of bias stops, quarterly statistical analysis of stops to monitor for racial profiling, creation of a civilian review board for misconduct complaints, and a public apology from the chief of police. The settlement gets announced at a press conference. The chief reads a prepared statement acknowledging that James's rights were violated and committing to reform. James stands beside his attorney, says he hopes this leads to meaningful change. He donates $300,000 of the settlement to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. Another $200,000 goes to establish a scholarship fund for children of service members. The rest covers legal fees and provides some compensation for the humiliation he endured. The Army takes particular interest in the case. They see it as a training opportunity. If it can happen to a full colonel, it can happen to any service member. The Judge Advocate General's office creates a training module based on James's arrest. Gets distributed to every military installation in the country. The training covers your rights when interacting with civilian police, how to assert rights without escalating, how to document incidents, when to contact military legal assistance, how to file complaints and lawsuits. The video of James's arrest gets viewed over 3 million times across various platforms. It's discussed on news programs, analyzed by legal experts, shown in law school classes on constitutional rights. The Clarksville Police Department implements all the reforms required by the settlement. They bring in outside experts to train officers, install the monitoring systems, create the civilian review board. But the real impact is in the conversations the case starts, about racial profiling, about the assumptions officers make, about the difference between actual suspicious behavior and normal activities performed by Black people. Today, 5 years after that Thursday evening in Save Mart, Colonel James Mitchell is now Brigadier General James Mitchell. He got his promotion 2 years after the grocery store incident. The Army made it clear that his willingness to stand up for his rights, even against civilian law enforcement, demonstrated exactly the kind of leadership they valued. He's still stationed at Fort Harrison, now serving as Deputy Commander. He gives talks to junior officers about civil rights and how to handle encounters with civilian police. He tells them, know your rights, stay calm, document everything, and never accept being treated as less than a citizen because of your race. His daughter Maya graduated from Georgetown, now working for the State Department. His son Eric got into Annapolis in his 3rd year now. His wife Patricia is still a high school principal. She uses James's story when teaching students about civil rights and standing up to injustice. James still shops at Save Mart, goes there every couple of weeks. The staff all know him now, greet him by name. Phil, the manager, always stops to chat. The store has become something of a landmark because of what happened there. People drive by and point it out. That's where the colonel was arrested. Brad Simmons, the cashier who made the initial call, quit 2 weeks after the incident. The backlash on social media was intense. People found his Facebook, his Instagram, his Twitter. He posted an apology video saying he'd made a terrible mistake based on assumptions he'd been raised with, said he was working on his biases. Some people accepted the apology, many didn't. Last anyone heard, he moved to a different state and deleted all his social media. Ryan Kellerman is 43 now, still working warehouse security, lives alone in a small apartment. He's divorced, doesn't have social media accounts anymore because the harassment was too much. According to people who know him, he still maintains he did nothing wrong, still tells himself he was just doing his job, still can't see that his assumptions and biases cost him everything. Lieutenant Susan Torres got promoted to captain, now runs the training division for the Clarksville Police Department, uses James's case in every training session she conducts, shows the videos, asks recruits, what would you have done differently? The best answers come from recruits who say they wouldn't have made contact at all because slow shopping isn't suspicious. Angela Chen, the attorney, has used the case as a template for 7 other lawsuits involving racial profiling. She's won every single one. Keeps a framed photo of James in his dress uniform on her office wall as a reminder of why she does this work. This story matters because it shows that credentials don't protect you from racism. James was a colonel with 25 years of service, a Bronze Star, a record of exemplary conduct. None of that mattered to Officer Kellerman. All that mattered was the color of James's skin. But it also shows what happens when someone knows their rights and refuses to be intimidated. James didn't fight, didn't run, didn't make threats. He just stood firm, asserted his rights clearly, and made sure everything was documented. Here's the thing though, not everyone can do what James did. Not everyone has his training, his composure, his access to military legal resources, and that's the problem. Your rights shouldn't depend on your rank or education or resources. They should be universal, but they're not. The system relies on people not knowing their rights or being too scared to assert them. It relies on officers being able to intimidate citizens into compliance. It relies on incidents happening without witnesses or cameras. James's case had witnesses. It had cameras. It had a victim who knew exactly what was happening and could articulate it clearly. That's why it ended with accountability. But how many similar incidents happen without those factors? How many people get arrested, charged, convicted even, because they didn't have what James had? Think about Brad Simmons for a second. 19 years old, working a cashier job, sees a black man shopping and immediately feels uncomfortable. Not because of anything the man did, just because of who he was. Brad calls 911, and from that one call based on nothing but racial anxiety, a decorated military officer ends up in handcuffs. That's how fragile our rights are. That's how little it takes for things to go wrong. One employee with unexamined biases, one officer who doesn't know the law as well as he should, and suddenly you're arrested for shopping. Do you think the $780,000 settlement was enough? Or should there have been criminal charges against the officer? Let me know in the comments. The Clarksville Police Department has a memorial wall in their headquarters. It honors officers who died in the line of duty. 12 names on that wall, going back to 1952. Every officer who passes that wall is reminded of the sacrifice some officers make. But there's no wall for the citizens whose rights were violated. No memorial for the people who were stopped, searched, arrested, or assaulted based on nothing but the color of their skin. No recognition of the harm that bad policing causes to communities and families. Maybe there should be. Maybe police departments need to be reminded that their failures have victims too. That unlawful arrests don't just go away. They leave scars, they erode trust, they make communities afraid of the people who are supposed to protect them. James Mitchell was arrested on a Thursday evening at 6:43 p.m. for the crime of shopping while black, held for 55 minutes, humiliated in front of his community, treated like a criminal despite 25 years of service to his country. But he fought back, documented everything, filed the complaint, hired the attorney, followed through. And because of that, one bad officer lost his job. One city paid a heavy price. Thousands of officers across the country had to sit through training on why what happened to James was wrong. That's not justice. Real justice would be James never getting stopped in the first place. Real justice would be police officers seeing a black man shopping and thinking customer instead of suspect. Real justice would be Brad Simmons not calling 911 because someone was taking too long in a store, but it's something. It's accountability. It's consequence. It's proof that sometimes when someone knows their rights and refuses to back down, the system can be forced to respond. The pasta aisle at Save Mart looks the same as it did that Thursday evening. Same shelves, same products, same fluorescent lights, but it's different now. It's a place where something happened, where someone stood up, where injustice was documented and eventually addressed. And every time James shops there now, walking down that aisle with his basket, he's making a statement. He's saying, I have every right to be here. You cannot intimidate me. You cannot make me feel like I don't belong. This is my community too. That's the real victory. Not the settlement, not the officer being fired, but the fact that James still shops there, still walks with his head up, still lives his life without letting that incident define him. Thanks for watching this story all the way through. If it meant something to you, please share it. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss more stories about people standing up for their rights. Drop a comment and tell me what's the most important lesson you learned from General Mitchell's story. Remember, knowing your rights isn't being difficult. It's being a citizen. It's being someone who understands that the badge doesn't erase the Constitution. Stay safe, stand firm, and never let anyone make you feel like you don't belong. See you in the next one.